talked about where nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus come from. Kind of go through the life cycle of those ingredients, of those minerals that we might use in this forage or in cattle production.
Okay, so let's start with nitrogen and try to summarize it and kind of put the big picture when we look at nitrogen. So we'll start with that nitrogen in the air. And remember, we talked about the air being about 78% nitrogen. And so there's a couple ways we think about getting that nitrogen out of the air back to plants where they can use it. So one of them is going to be where we actually from a fertilizer plant, we capture that nitrogen out of the air. And remember, we talked about using natural gas to help us capture that nitrogen out of the air and make those fertilizer granules that we think about. Another way to get that nitrogen out of the air is the rhizobial bacteria that would be on those legume plants. In a third lesser known area is actually when we have thunderstorms and lightning, we can actually transfer some of that nitrogen out of the air down to the ground where plants can use it through that lightning process. And so whether it's coming through a fertilizer plant, whether it's coming through rhizobial bacteria, or whether it's coming directly out of the atmosphere using the lightning to help get it down to the ground, is that plant cannot distinguish it in any form or fashion. And generally speaking, that plant is primarily going to absorb that nitrogen in the form of nitrate. And that plant is then going to take that nitrate and convert it to amino acid and a protein. And then that cow is going to consume that. It's going to benefit from that amino acid and protein to help it perform. Anything it doesn't use, it either urinates back on the ground or defecates through manure, and that plant can take that back up and use it again, and we repeat that cycle. Or some of that nitrogen may actually volatilize back in the air, and then we would start that cycle over again like we were talking about. Another component of that recycling is any plants that aren't consumed by livestock over time will decay, and through organic matter will actually release some nitrogen back into the soil that plant can use. Now that's a very lengthy process, whereas if we have an animal that harvests that forage and it goes through the digestive tract, that nitrogen is going to be available to that plant much quicker again.